Hey, what's up, college football fans? Back for another week of the Swampy Coliseum podcast. My name is Andrew Hudson. Nathaniel Gilmore, it's good to see you once again.
What's up? Good to see you too.
Oh, we've got another week of college football. Really, the first big week of college football to talk about. Oh, week one has come and gone. So many good games to talk about. Let's start on a sad note. Can I get a little violin playing in the back? I don't know. My Florida Gators are awful. They're bad. Oh, we talked so much going into this year. We had all this discussion. What's it going to be like? Are they going to improve? Are they going to be able to go away from the issues in the past with Billy Napier? After 1 week, yikes. 41-17, a loss at the hands of the Miami Hurricanes. The talk going into it, I'll start for a little bit, and Nathaniel, you can chime in. But the talk going into it was Cristobal and Napier in a similar situation after their first 2 years. Both have underwhelming performances. They have skyrocketed past us. I was wary about Cam Ward. He was fantastic. I wasn't sure about our situation. I thought we would see some improvement. We didn't. I mean, the offense looked inept out there. And I'll tell you from the beginning, the thing that frustrated me, we finished the game only with 2 penalties, which surprised me. But it was the first drive on defense. Our offense went 4 plays, did nothing in our first drive. Miami drives down the field. We got them to a 3rd and 10. Cam Ward throws an incomplete pass, and Justice Boone hits him late, roughing the passer. We had him. We were going to stop him for a field goal. Automatic first down. 2 plays later, touchdown pass to the oldest man in college football, and that just started the spiral. And from there, the offense, like I said, couldn't get anything going. We had how many passing yards? 122 passing yards. Montrell Johnson, miracle he was back after his knee surgery. Montrell Johnson had a 71-yard rushing touchdown. If not for that run, we had 68 yards rushing in the game. Just awful. It was sad to watch, but I sat there and took the whole thing in. I don't know. Did you have anything else from the Gator game?
I mean, I was surprised Graham Mertz looked the way he did. He was so efficient last year and looked like a really solid quarterback. But just some questions for you. Do you think Napier is officially on the hot seat, and do you think Lagway should be starting next week?
Good question. I mean, with how we looked in one and how the rest of the season looks after this, as we've discussed at length, I could totally see Napier getting fired after this year. Yeah, it's tough to fire during the season. You have the whole system in place and everything, maybe, but man, if he pulls off a 3-9 season, it's possible. After the game, I looked at our schedule and I said, Sanford, we won't even talk about Sanford this week. If we lose to Sanford, we might stop the podcast. I don't know. But Sanford next week and Mississippi State, I mean, I'm skipping a couple of games. Mississippi State, UCF, After that, there's a lot of losses to me. I mean, 2-10, 3-9, who knows? I'm beside myself, and this is the first game. Miami is a good team, a very good team, but it's just, I don't think we threw the ball more than 5 yards down the field. Just a little bubble screens, slants. Then, like you said, Lagway came in at the end of the game. Graham Mertz went down with a concussion. Hopefully he's okay. We're just going to have to see. because his availability for next week is definitely in question. So we're going to have to see.
We're definitely going to have to see this week if he can perform or if he can even play. Lagway looked good, had led us on a touchdown drive. He had one kind of fluke interception. His arm got hit, and so they had a wobbly interception. But Jesse Palmer kept making comments during the game that it just looks different when DJ Lagway is playing. You know, the way he moves and does things. Like, okay, yes, the intangibles are there, but he has no experience, you know, as a
Yeah.
college
Yeah.
quarterback. So will we get to the point in the year where maybe he just takes over because we're looking so bad? Maybe, but my my hopes for the college football season have shot down pretty low now, and at the same time, my excitement for the Jacksonville Jaguars has just gone up. So we'll see what the focus ends up being as we go through this season. But
Yeah.
Gators, like I said, we're taking on Samford this week. Hopefully, it should be an easy game. Move forward. Look forward to Texas A&M the week after, but not good. Not good.
Yeah. I will say, in 2016, USC got absolutely blown out by Alabama because we decided to start the incumbent, experienced Max Brown
Mm.
instead of our raw, talented Sam Darnold. And we made the switch 2, 3 games in, won the Rose Bowl that year. So you never know.
You never know. We've got Lagway in the wings, and it's just disappointing because we had hopes for Mertz. You know, he came
Yeah.
off a really solid year last year, and just wanted to see improvement. And I know our weapons aren't great on the outside. We've got to get the ball to our playmakers more. I mean, Trey Wilson needs to get the ball way more. Um, I think he had, and even in saying that, he had 7 catches and a couple runs, but I want that guy touching the ball 18 times a game, if
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
getting the ball in the hands of our playmakers, and with that, I say that all about the offense. The defense gives up 41 and does not look improved coming off of
Yeah.
last year where we looked bad as well. So,
Yeah.
uh, we're I'm just not excited. So rant can be over. We'll move forward, but hoping for some improvement over this year.
Yeah. I think I have to give flowers to Cam Ward because
Yeah,
last week you said, is it when he struggled in big games, is it just because he's not meant for it, or was it Washington
right.
State? And I think we can kind of answer the question that it was just Washington State at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely doubted him coming in.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure how he would. I'm all the podcasters, news people, everyone has been talking about how will he handle being in the swamp. Playing in the SEC is different, like in an
Yeah.
SEC stadium. He handled it fine to me. It
Yeah.
was great.
He said Autzen Stadium and the Coliseum, even though it wasn't even packed, were louder than the swamp. So I don't
Yeah,
know
he
how
he
you'd take that.
he handled well. What? Maybe he's talking about, yeah, in the fourth quarter because I'm sure half the stadium was empty, so that makes sense. But man, he just looked calm and composed, relaxed,
Yeah.
almost like his body movements were almost like he didn't care in terms of
Yeah.
he was that mature
Yeah.
in how he was moving around. So definitely could have high hopes this season for Miami. I wasn't expecting them to. I'm always pretty down on Miami. I don't think either of us had them in our playoffs, which
Yeah. I thought they were
I'd say
frauds.
they have a much better chance now after we'll talk about what else happened this weekend, but definitely high hopes for them as they're going into the rest of the year. But let's get off the Gators. Let's talk about your USC Trojans coming off a
Uh,
victory on Sunday night. Tell us more, Nathaniel.
it feels weird kind of switching energy levels, but I think that man, that was a fun game to watch. I mean, definitely as a USC fan, I think it was exciting every single time USC made a stop or made a tackle. I was my entire family were texting each other like, "Do we have a defense? Do we have a defense?" And I think that's all really need to say. Lincoln Riley has a defense. It's really exciting.
Mm.
I mean, just the defensive strategy was just miles ahead of whatever Alex Grinch last year would have done. Like, I can already imagine if Grinch was in here, it'd just be blitzing all night, man coverage in the end, and then they're just gonna dump it off every single time. We're missing tackles, 2 or 3 per play, and they're scoring every other play. And I mean, we played soft coverage, but we still loaded the box and we tackled guys. All our defensive playmakers looked pretty good. Mason Cobb looked great. Kamari Ramsey had some big tackles and was just really a great safety, just, making sure nothing got past him. Jalen Smith, Eric Gentry, which are veterans of this team. Yeah, they're making big hits. They're making big tackles, which was just really awesome to see.
Mm-hmm.
I think Will Compton or not Will Compton, the LSU's offensive tackle talked about how they're going to get into a fist fight and that they're going to push around this defense, and that didn't really happen. I think if you take out that one big 39-yard game they had rushing the ball in the third quarter, they
Mm-hmm.
only ran 3 yards per carry or something like that. So they didn't really get pushed around, and they did pretty well. And yeah, Kyron Lacey went off for them the first half
Mm.
and didn't even get a catch the second half. So just like
Wow.
seeing how good the second half adjustment was by Danson Lynn, and we bracketed him a lot of double coverage if he ever got past the first line. Just there were two guys right there, so just great adjustments. And yeah, it feels weird having a functional defensive coordinator because I feel like the last 10 years since the middle of the Helton era, we just could not tackle at all. So yeah, it was Sunday night was an interesting and really exciting moment. And then you can talk about the offense. The offense, Miller Moss won Big Ten Offensive Player of the Week,
Mm.
deservedly so. He was slinging the ball. He had pressure in his face, and he just fired through it. He had some scary. I think 3 balls were tipped in
Mm.
the fourth quarter. 2 of them almost picked off at the end, but he was just on all night and had a great touchdown pass where he just lobbed it up, let our playmakers do what they do. I mean, Kyron Hudson made 2 insane
Oh,
catches. Zach
my
Branch
man.
was just right.
Oh,
That
wow.
was insane. I think when I saw that, I'm like, oh, we. I was kind of scared that was going to be the highlight of the game, and we just do
Mm.
nothing after that. But he went out, had another kind of one-handed catch while getting targeted right in the head. Zach Branch almost broke off a kickoff return, had a couple big plays offensively. That's also a guy for us. We probably need to put the ball in his hand a lot more. I think he
Right.
probably touched the ball 3 times on offense, and that's got to be a little more. Um, yeah, Woody Marks was just getting tough yards, had 2 touchdowns, one of them on the last play, pretty much the last play of the game where we are just trying to set up a field goal, and he kind of broke right through the line, made a guy miss, got that touchdown, making it 27-20. So, yeah, I think also a big thing that I found is that they just flushed. Like they had a couple miscues, like I talked about, all the tip passes that almost got picked. Woody Marks just put the ball on the ground, trying to do a little trick play to get Zach Branch the ball, and he hesitated, tossed the ball right on the ground, and then after that, they just kept giving it to him, and he uh, kept getting big yards. But yeah, Utah State next week, big step down. So it's just that don't get hungover from Sunday. They have one less day to prepare. And you could tell that the guys were really emotional and fired up after the game. So you just gotta don't play down to Utah State. Their quarterback is the backup quarterback that beat USC with Utah last year, the pig
Mm.
farmer they call him. So hopefully we get our get back and see how this defense plays against a lesser talented team.
Yeah, absolutely. It was awesome watching the replay of the game. Kyron Hudson. Wow, what plays that he had. I, LSU is just going to keep churning out these receivers. Kyron Lacey,
Yeah,
I mean, he
yeah,
was really good last year, even
yeah.
with Neighbors and Brian Thomas on the team. It looks like he's going to be another first round pick, but Nussmeier could spin it. I mean, I
Oh
like the
yeah,
way he
oh
looked
yeah,
out there, but man, the USC defense was able to shut them down. I know Brian Kelly was mad after the game, talked about being angry with his team,
yeah.
but
I
USC played a
mean,
great game.
yeah,
Fun to watch. Fun to watch. And I pulled up these stats, looking at it so far this year, just in the first one game. Have played two games, but looking at yards per attempt for quarterbacks, right? There's a lot of guys around that 11, 10 area. You know, even let's look at the top. You've got Jackson Dart, 15 yards per attempt. Noah Fafita, 13. Drew Alar, 12. We had Cam Ward, 11 yards per attempt. Miller Moss, your guy, 10 and a half yards per attempt. This is where you want to be, you know, where you should be around this time. Graham Mertz, 118th with 4.6 yards per passing attempt.
jeez,
4.6. So, man, it's just those things have to improve. We're down
yeah,
there with some three-time transfers. That's the company he's keeping down at the bottom. So things need to change for sure. But man, looking up for USC
yeah,
um, after that game, love to see it, and will be cool to see over the next few weeks and the rest of the season. Let's talk overall week one impressions. Okay, we've got a lot of games that were happening. I feel like we can't go any further without talking more about just for a moment about that one team who's played twice already. Florida State last night watched the game. Another awful
so
performance,
so bad.
bad performance against Boston College. Lost the game 28-13 and just looked overmatched.
Yeah, yeah. I think scheme wise, like it wasn't like they got some lucky plays. It was like they were throwing that running back wheel route over and over again.
Mm,
It's like okay, like at some point you gotta adjust. Like I mean, I'm not saying it's as easy as playing video games, but like if I'm like playing freaking NCAA 14 or something, you see that wheel pass more than once, you're like let's maybe stop this right here. Like let me like keep an eye on this guy. But I mean, Castellanos, I think that's what name of their quarterback is. He looked good.
yeah.
He looked way better than the NIL millions of dollars given to DJU. And man, DJ just looked so bad.
Ugh,
Like, okay, I know we've been dogging him on this podcast for how many years now?
3 years now.
3 years. And I don't think I've seen him play as bad as that ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it was rough to watch. I started tuning in. I think it was 14-3 when I saw the score, and so I turned it on. And yeah, the passes, just his completion percentage so low.
Yeah,
He he went 50%, 21 of 42.
yeah,
FSU had 21 yards rushing all game.
it's
They were
insane.
just dominated on both lines of scrimmage and really didn't stand a chance. So FSU, they're going to be out of the top 25. We don't know what's going to go on with them. But we've
Yeah,
got to talk about the number one team in the country. Georgia comes out against Clemson 34-3. Just in complete control. Started off a little slow, but they look like the best team in the country again, potentially. Your
yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, it's Kirby Smart teams. They just look sharp from the get-go. I think there's a lot of teams that look, they have to kind of get into the flow of things. Takes a game or two, like probably 90% of teams, but I mean, Georgia almost every year. It's like, especially their defense, just like clockwork. I think Clemson's defense looked amazing. I think that's why Carson Beck and that offense, they looked good in the first half, but it was just big tackles, big plays. And then you flip on the other side, that first drive by Clemson was they had like two penalties.
Mm.
They had some like I think the first play was a rollout dump off pass in the flat. Should have gotten 5, 6 yards, get Klubnik in rhythm, just dumps it at his feet, and you're like,
Yeah,
that's how that game
bad
went. I
start.
mean, he had maybe one or two good throws, but Klubnik did not look good. I don't even think it was like Georgia's defense. He was just missing throws. He had some good decision making, a lot better than last year, but like throws weren't there. And I think their defense is going to be able to win them games, but they're not going to be able to win them big games. And I
Mm.
think I think this completely just opens up Miami. I think they now have to be the runaway favorite. I don't think Clemson's going to be there. Um, FSU is not even going to be close. And then those were the only two real big obstacles in their way. Maybe a Louisville who has a looser schedule, but I mean, we've got to see.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. Seems like they're for sure the favorite. We'll have to see. Also, they don't have a tough schedule, so
Mhm.
that plays in their favor as well. Were there any other games that stood out to you from week one?
I think we got to talk about Notre Dame, Texas A&M. I mean, we
Absolutely.
kind of previewed it last week. Kind of that, like, let's see what Elko has his first game. Let's see, if Freeman really just, just goes in there, gets that big first win, really, and Riley Leonard, Connor Weigman thought everything I heard was that this kid is really good.
Mm.
That's why Elko didn't go in the portal and get a new QB. Probably should have. I mean, obviously, one game doesn't make a season, but he didn't look good. But they ran the ball decently. Moss had 70 just real tough yards every single time, just trying to just bulldoze people, get some extra yardage. And Riley Leonard didn't look too great passing the ball, but he ran it pretty well. I think that kind of gives you shivers as an SC fan that we have another scrambling quarterback just to make our lives just miserable. But I mean, he showed toughness as a runner. Jeremiah Love looked amazing, and Freeman's defense looked great as always. I think they can cement themselves as a playoff team if they can kind of figure out the passing game.
Yeah, we both picked Notre Dame into our playoff, but then picked against them against Texas A&M. We're both
Oh man,
incorrect. We should have stuck to our guns, but definitely Notre Dame looking strong.
yeah.
Coming off of this first matchup and heading into the rest of the season. So we've got some good games happening last week, good ones coming up this week. How about some risers and fallers? So at this point at 11:30 Eastern on Tuesday, we still haven't seen the AP poll today. Crazy. But
Yeah.
from what we had previously in the AP top 25, who's your biggest riser from week one?
You know who I got to go with. The University of Southern California. I am all aboard the hype train. I mean, I kind of was before. I thought this team, what I said week one, that we're going to go either like 8-4 or 11-1. Now I'm pushing that 11-1. I think this looks like a real team. Big win in a big game and only game on that Sunday. So everyone was watching. I think they had ESPN released a stat that there was 9.8 million viewers, which was the most watched game all week, and I think the most watched game since of a week one game since 2016. So, and that stadium was packed. We got a 4-star quarterback commit literally the next morning. Yeah, an honorable mention I would give is to Iowa. They scored 40 points, which
Yeah.
was eye-opening. I have a coworker who's an Iowa fan, and he watched that game when we were driving over to work, and man, he was excited. So I think Iowa, if they keep this offensive production going, they're going to be scary.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about them more in a minute. They're one of our picks for this week. My biggest risers got to be Miami, going with what we've already discussed. Coming into the season, so many questions about how the team would look, and they came out on fire, just looking great against Florida this week. So we know they'll be rising up in the rankings. And as we've already discussed, my biggest faller has got to be FSU. We talked last week saying, are they going to redo the rankings? Because FSU is still number 10, and
Yeah,
then they lose another game. So
yeah.
I mentioned before, they're probably going to be outside the top 25 would be my guess.
Oh,
But
100%.
two really poor showings against Georgia Tech and Boston College, and just starting off the season uh, in a brutal way. Coming off of they had won 19 games in a row before losing to Georgia at the end of last year and these first two games of this
Yeah.
season. So they've got a lot of soul searching, a lot of things to figure out. But FSU is my biggest faller. What about you?
So many options, honestly. I mean, we have Oregon just looking really rough against Idaho, scoring 24 points. Like their offense was humming. Like
Yeah, shocking.
if you look at the stats and you don't look at the
Well,
score, you'd think they put up like 30, 40 points. Nah, 24. Michigan looked rough against Fresno State. Their quarterback situation is iffy. We'll talk about it later. But I think I got to go with Clemson. I mean, they had a big test early and they just got absolutely fraud checked. And I mean, it doesn't look good. Obviously, there's still a lot of like good points, silver linings with that defense, but that offense, that was the biggest question. Are they going to improve? And they honestly looked worse than last year.
yeah, it was tough to watch, and more questions will continue to rise about Dabo's not using the transfer portal, and it'll just get tougher and tougher for him if they don't see the success that they had in previous years.
Yeah. Well, you
Ooh,
see, Dabo not using the portal, not doing so hot. Mike Norvell just using the portal, not doing so
not
hot.
doing so
So
hot.
maybe it's just in the middle.
Two ends of the spectrum. Yeah, it's definitely not a cure-all, but some
Yeah,
people like to put it that way, thinking that
yeah,
one way or the other is the best. But
yeah.
it all comes down to Jimmys and Joes and X's and O's. Got to get both
There
of
we
them.
go.
It's not just one or the other. So let's get to our picks. We've got five more games to pick this week. A couple interesting matchups. Well, really all interesting. A couple with a pair of ranked teams, but we'll start here at the bottom. Our first game is a matchup that involves one of our playoff contenders. We've got Arkansas going to Oklahoma State this week. Really interesting matchup with the SEC and Big 12 going up against each other. Um, Oklahoma State is favored by 7 points in this game. They look good in their first game. Um, Ollie Gordon, of course, running the ball really well. They took down South Dakota State, and while they're an FCS team, they're the FCS national champion. You know,
Yeah,
the best team you could get from that division of football. So handle them easily, 44-20. Arkansas, they've lost their quarterback. KJ Jefferson is at UCF now. They're starting up influx of this new season, still figuring things out. I'm going to pick Oklahoma State, um, looking toward them making it to the playoff, and so I'm going to have them win this game.
interesting choice. No, but Oklahoma State, yeah, I mean, just looking at the Colorado game, they played Colorado played probably the fourth, fifth best team in FCS who just lost their head coach and they struggled. And I think I was expecting Oklahoma State to struggle against a really good South Dakota State team. And they didn't. They were able to control the line of scrimmage. Ollie Gordon did his thing. But I wouldn't count out Arkansas just yet. They put up 69 points. I think it was 69 nothing or something against Arkansas Pine Bluff, which, there's that. But I think Taylon Green
I think that's
looked
a high
really good.
school.
Oh, yeah. There you go. That was just a warm up game.
Yeah.
It's a preseason, if you will. But I think Taylon Green actually looks pretty good. And I think Bobby Petrino is going to get that offense looking better than it has been the last couple of years with KJ Jefferson, and watching Jefferson at UCF. Maybe that was a move that needed to be made. And I think that's why the line is so low, -7. I would honestly expect it to be a little higher, but maybe they're giving it a little SEC like love, where it's like it's just upper out there, means more, But I'm gonna also go with Oklahoma State. I think, they're just gonna be able to ride out Ollie Gordon and get themselves a win.
Yeah. Very good. Second game, rivalry here. We've got Iowa State going to Iowa. We just talked about them a little bit. Iowa only a 2.5 point favorite. What do you got in this one?
I mean, it's hard not to go for Iowa in this situation. That line's pretty low, but I think Iowa, just their defense every year, it's going to be really good. The question's always, what about that offense? They got a new OC, kind of moved away from the Nepo baby situation happening over there. And I think, if they're able to put 40 points up, or at least honestly 25 points per game, which was actually the standard last year that they couldn't hit. I think they're going to be beating a lot of teams, and I think they're going to be Iowa State.
Yeah, this is interesting too that the line is so low. Coming off Iowa State just beat North Dakota, only scoring 21 points against them. They won 21-3. So your thought would be that Iowa would be able to handle this pretty well. I'm going to pick Iowa as well. You're mentioning Cade McNamara coming in and having their offense look better. I'm going to go with Iowa and hoping they can keep it going. This matchup is interesting right here. Colorado going to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on Dylan Raiola and the Cornhuskers. Man, this is a fun watch. I'm interested to look into this. Of course, the whole Sanders show coming in. You got the freshman quarterback here in Nebraska, and I don't know where you're going with this. So I'm gonna make my pick, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Nebraska is a 7 point favorite coming into the game. I'm going Colorado. I'm going Colorado.
Okay.
I I don't have that much hope in their defense. Their secondary, especially outside of Travis Hunter, very suspect. So it'll be interesting to see what Rayola can do against them. But I want to see the strength of Colorado come through. They failed us last year, right? They took down TCU in game one and then just flubbed the rest of the year. But I'm gonna go with Colorado, seeing if they can keep the strength going into this year two under Coach Prime.
Well, so it's also another year two for another coach in Matt Rule,
That's right.
which I think has a bit better pedigree than Coach Prime. And year two, that's where teams made the jump. I thought it was interesting. They were just going to give the keys of the Big Red to Dylan Raiola. And
Yeah.
I mean, game one, it was against UTEP, which non-FCS school. But Dylan looked good. He looked like he was ready for college football, and I think he will have a pretty easy time with this Colorado defense. Shadur and Travis Hunter looks elite. Like they looked really good against North Dakota State. But but the rest of the team just does not look better than, like, I think they might even look a little worse than last year. They struggled. They got pushed around. They had zero run game. I mean, I think that last drive they had against NDSU where they just threw the ball like, what are we doing? It's just the run game had nothing, and Shadur tried to pull a fast one. They're hoping they're going to take a jump, but I think Nebraska is just a better coach team, and I think Dylan Raiola is just going to show why he is one of the top quarterback prospects last year, and yeah, they're going to put it on him.
I love going opposite directions on picks. Love it. Okay. We're down to our two matchups of two ranked teams. So we've got 15 Tennessee, who looked really strong last week, going to play NC State, number 15 against number 24 in the current rankings. How about that one?
Yeah, I think yeah, Nico Maliva, I'm pretty sure. He looked good. I mean, he looked good in the bowl game last year. It was against Chattanooga. Fun fact, I was in Chattanooga last weekend. We drove past Chattanooga's practice fields on the way to work every morning that week. But yeah,
Mm.
looks like their offense is firing on all cylinders. NC State, on the other hand, struggled with Western Carolina. I mean, Grayson McCall looked solid, and they had a good running game, but they kept making mistakes, which kept Western Carolina in the game. They're going to need to flush it, but I think Tennessee is just going to be way too much, and they're just going to walk in Tennessee State and take that win.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going with Iamalieva, if I'm not mistaken.
Yamalieva.
I heard it a couple of times, and I'll have to confirm. It's going to be our new Uyunglele. But no, they looked fantastic in their first game. I mean, winning 69-3, the offense is everything. It looked all the way you want it to look, and so I'm going to go with Tennessee as well to get the victory. And to our big matchup of the week, big matchup, number 4 Texas going in to Ann Arbor, Michigan, to take on the Wolverines. Man, Texas, a big playoff contender for both of us. You have them winning the SEC. I have them as the number 5 seed at the end of the year. I've got Michigan in my playoffs, and you don't. So
Frauds.
definitely an interesting situation here that we're looking at. Um, man, this is a tough one to make. Michigan's offense, as we mentioned before, did not look that strong coming into this new year, new coaches, new quarterback, everything. Um, man, but they're at home. They're at home. Could they make something happen here? Could they do it? Could they pull off this upset? Texas 6.5 point. Can they do it? Yeah, I don't know. I'm going with Texas here. I'm going with Texas getting the victory. This this has to be their year. Quinn Ewers
Mhm.
has to lead them to victory. They know this is a huge moment for them, and I see him going to the big house and getting the win. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's tough to kind of look at this Michigan team and seeing how good they were last year, and just lose your head coach, you lose your quarterback, you lose your top end running back, you lose a lot of weapons on offense. You're still going to have a great defense every year. I think that's not going to change with Sharon Moore, but
Right.
man, that offense looked bad. I think like they're struggling against Fresno. They only put up 30 because of a pick six. Dylan Edwards, the college football 25 cover athlete, had 27 yards off of 12 carries. Um, their quarterback Warren, like I thought it was going to be Orgy. Orgy had 2 passes that game, and one of them was a wide open little like 10-yard out, and he threw it 8 yards. I think
Mm.
he has a better arm, but I think Warren right now is just more developed as a passer. And but without setting all that aside, neither of them or anywhere close to running the offense like JJ McCarthy. And I think teams are going to see that. And I mean, if they just load the box up, make the running game work for every yard, and make the quarterbacks, have to win games, I don't think they're going to be able to do it. So, with all that to say, I think Texas and my Heisman pick in Quinn Ewers, I think they're just going to come in. I think they might even win by almost 2 scores.
I like that pick. Like that pick. We've got one different. I'm interested to see this Colorado-Nebraska game, but we've got
Yeah.
another good week coming up. We'll have to see how the Gators can come off of a loss, how USC can do after that first victory, and looking forward to more good football. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you all next week. Also, now so you know, we're on Instagram. You can follow us there. We're on
Spotify.
we are on Spotify. You can follow the Swampy Coliseum there as well. Follow us on YouTube, everywhere. We love all the listeners. Thank you for following along with us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
See ya.